Oh, it always sneaks up on me. It says go live. Hello, welcome, good evening, good afternoon, good day, good morning. Wherever you are, we're sending you always all the best. This is Biz to Biz with Joy. Grow your business in style. Leaders leaving legacies. Tonight, our featured guest, Liz Luckett, a name that you're going to remember, the personality you're going to remember, because we're going to be talking about it's time for a shift in perspective. And why tonight? Because we're in this pandemic, and Lisa lived through 9/11 on a very personal level, which we're going to be talking about. Welcome. It's always good to see you here. We invite you to come and to share space and time with us so that you can listen to and learn from other people's journeys, what they're about, what they're offering, what they're sharing. My work as a style and leadership coach, speaker, personal, professional, and spiritual development is all about bringing to you the best of the best to share with you. And that's what I'm bringing to you tonight. So I want you to sit back. I want you to relax. I want you to grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, maybe cocktail, and listen to what Lisa is going to share with us about her journey. So help me to welcome our guest tonight. Lisa, how nice to have you with me. I have waited for this for some time because I love the journey and the story that you share with us. It's not a pretty, beautiful story, but it's a story with a lot of heart. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Joy. And hi to everybody out there. It's nice to see you.
Hello, hello, hello. Let me just say this. One of the things that is intriguing with me about you, it is time for a shift in perspective. Can we see 9/11 in a new light? And now is the time to talk about that a wee bit, Lisa, because we've all gone through something we've never gone through before, this pandemic. So share with us what happened and what occurred with you during the 9/11 crises that we all went through in different ways.
Right. So 9/11 was, to most of our memories, the first really collective trauma that we've had in these last 20 years. But the
True.
last 20 years have really been trauma after trauma after trauma, man-made, Mother Nature, shootings,
Yes.
record-setting, everything scary from nature. And so, what I learned in my experience of 9/11, I lost my husband, Ted Luckett, who was the best guy ever, in the North Tower. He was on the 105th floor of 107. So he was right at the top. But I'd had a very unique experience in the sense that I had also, we were married in the early 90s, and he walked down in the first attack in February of 1993. So I'd already dealt with terrorism before, and I'd already
Ah,
seen his life, be challenged and be threatened in that way.
ah,
So by
interesting.
the time 9/11 happened, I was a little seasoned in that way. So I
Oh,
had a very different experience than most people. The second piece was, I believe that our life is always preparing us for our life, meaning that it's not usually the great stuff that gets you, prep for the next thing, but it's the tough stuff. And I had a mother-in-law that basically told me my husband was going to die of a heart attack every time I saw her for the time we were married, because he had higher cholesterol. We were stressed. He was stressed. We had little kids. We were 40 years old, and we knew what we were into with our third baby. And yeah, so I ran his death through my mind all the time. So here you go. The imagination, the human imagination is so
yes, yes.
vital
I
that
know.
we can actually create enough the imaginative death or drama almost to the same level, but we never see what we're flanked with in the trauma, which is the kindness of strangers, that people show up
Yes,
for us, that we are really engulfed on the flank, right, coming
yes.
from behind, where we don't expect
Lisa,
it, to be held and lofted in this beautiful place of love.
I hear you loud and clear, and I agree completely with what you just said. But you said something that I want to piggyback on, dovetail right back to it because it's more powerful than we realize. Sometimes you hear it from another perspective. You said that your husband Ted was up in the North Tower and on, but you were a little bit seasoned because something had happened prior to this. Now, that seasoning is not a good, flavorful seasoning that you'd had. So, yet when this 9/11 happened, it's not that you were prepared for it, but you had had a reckoning somewhat with an inkling of what that could be terrorism.
Right.
So, how did you? it's way after the fact, and yet not that long ago, because that wound will always be there. But how did you deal with this after the fact?
Well, so this is kind of where we'll bring it to the 20 years later and how it
Yes,
relates to other people. So
right.
what happened for me was a very beautiful thing in a very traumatic, tragic scenario. And that is, I was being guided. I didn't know it then, but a higher power than me was helping me the whole time. And I was not religious. I was not into the whole God thing, nothing. So this came to, out of the blue. I know this now looking back, but the truth is, I decided that the only way I could countermand the terrorists, because I'm a warrior, I'm a fighter, and
Yes,
I had this unbelievable pull, this power, if you will. It was growing in my belly in those days that followed, and there was this, it's an agitation and anger, right? But it wasn't an anger at the terrorists. It was like about love. It was like about, I was getting all this beautiful grace coming at me from all corners of the world. And that it was, we needed to make something good come from 9/11 to countermand the terrorists, because
yes.
otherwise they were going to win. And that was not okay with me. So the only thing I knew to do, and it wasn't me thinking, it was coming through me, and that was to figure out the why of everything. That the only way I could make some sense out of this was to go to the analyst's couch, to put my 40 dysfunctional years up for grabs, to look at it, dissect it, peel it back, figure it out. But not only for me, for the globe, a world where this could even happen. How did this even happen?
Listen, I have to stop you for just a second, because what you're sharing is really beyond powerful. And you mentioned a word there that many of us who are in this life cycle here and now, whatever generation we're in, this is new for many, this pandemic and what it's brought to us. And you mentioned a word there that I use often: higher power, higher force, the God-given, whatever term you want to use, the faith, the spiritual outlook that you have. Yet what aligns with that is what you are, I am, and so many others out there tuning in to listen, light warriors. Because you mentioned in your bio to me briefly, and I really resonated with this. You mentioned that three-legged stool, which is what you're speaking to now. So share with us a little bit about that three-legged stool, the struggle, and how that, you said that you didn't realize at the time that you were being guided to this. That's powerful. Share that with us.
Right. So, well, it's looking back. So the three-legged stool is kind of a concept that comes out of the thought that over the years of me studying, one of the questions I came up with was, why were we so emotionally unprepared to handle 9/11 as a culture? And
Yes,
that's where the three-legged stool comes in: the mind, body, spirit. So the American culture, which is very young, remember, we're only 400 years old at the latest.
absolutely. People
And we're dealing with cultures thousands and thousands of years older than we are. But as most adolescent children think they know everything, maybe that's more of where we've been. So here we had a situation where we really super served academics and intelligence and intellect in the mind. We've really super served physical fitness when Olympians and college athletes are having to take steroids to compete. Have we not maximized physical fitness as a human? We can't get any stronger, bigger, unless we become bionic, which would be great, but that's another day. But the leg of the stool that was missing was the emotional leg, because we don't have training in this culture. We do not have training toward emotional intelligence. On top of the fact, we're so young, we don't have any wisdom to draw life through. We don't have any wisdom to see why. We haven't had enough time to turn around and study what's happened and see it from many different perspectives, right? We have our own perspective, but have we looked at it from other perspectives? And not necessarily to say that what we're doing is wrong at all, but there's many, many, many ways to see things. Go ahead.
This is very powerful, because you're mentioning that word, however you use it in whatever context, emotional. Because my belief, Lisa, is that the universe, and I say she is crying, weeping for us, meaning heart-centered leadership. Leadership that has emotion and caring and compassion and vulnerability and approachability, all of those things. That's what's coming into the fold now. And if anything, 9/11 might have been the beginning impetus, the seed for it, and now this pandemic. So everything that you're saying is really spot on. Yes.
Yeah. So vulnerability, in my opinion, is a superpower, because when you're vulnerable, you let down that guard, you let go, you surrender, you're vulnerable, you actually build incredible richness and depth in the relationships you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Maybe a little humiliating in the beginning, but I promise you at the end of the day, you will win when you let your guard down and you tell somebody how you feel and what you need.
Absolutely. Oh, and what you need. That's powerful, because usually people to date, and it will continue because this is a cycle of life. It's hard for many people to ask for what they need,
Oh, yeah.
especially if they feel that they're handicapped or somehow less in one arena or another. That's why being in leadership, this is why my thinking, my feeling, and I know that you're aligned, whether you're exactly verbatim with what I'm saying or not, that the universe is crying for heart-centered leadership, because we've had this hardcore Teddy Roosevelt, great guy type of leadership. And now it's time to get the heart and the soul connected so that the emotions and that vulnerability comes out. And it is powerful. Yet it's so fearful for people. What has been your experience to date, Lisa, and why you have discovered, and all of the trials and tribulations that you've been through with 9/11 and up to now, what do you think is a cause of that major fear factor for so many people?
Oh, I wish we had like 3 hours, Joy. We've got so many topics here. Well, the fear, if you really want my answer on fear, my answer is that the terrorism literally hit us so hard. And so we were so naive and caught so unaware. We weren't even prepared to be prepared that we, the fear at that level, which to me is like a dimensionally bigger fear, right? Than just, ow, something's going to happen. It was mind blowing. It was psychological warfare, which they have actually won, because we never did anything to treat the fear. We didn't have the emotional intelligence. We didn't have the leg of that stool in our culture to sit down and handle this. It was too shameful to talk about, to go to therapy. Everything was shamed when it came to mental illness or mental health or mental anything. Now it's very acceptable, although still shamed, because we're still in transition. And I can tell you, back to your question, your point about vulnerability,
yes,
and heart-centeredness. Well, there's a reason why we are doing what we're doing. And if you want to ask, 20 years later to the day, September of 2021, we're coming out of COVID, going back to school, going back to work. It is exactly 20 years to the day, practically, from the first collective trauma of 9/11 to the last collective trauma of COVID. That is not a mistake. These are things being shown to us. 9/11 shot us out of a cannon, right? It was like a stagecoach barreling down the mountainside, and the driver had let go of the reins, and we all went, oh my God, what do we do? And that's where we've been for 20 years, because we keep getting hit and hit and hit and hit. COVID happens, and I believe it's Mother Nature basically saying, I'm going to pick up those reins and pull them back, and we're going to go, whoa, slow down. Everybody needs a timeout. We need a snack and a nap, and we need to figure this out, because we've been racing for 20 years.
Well, you presented that eloquently. I have been saying it in a different context, but it's the same verbiage, different words. And that is that this pandemic and 9/11, but I think the pandemic is bringing it home to a lot more of us who are in the leadership role, light warriors, because it means that you've got to really go inside, and you've got to get to the understanding of self-awareness, self-development, mastering who we are. And the question is, who are we? That's what we have to find out. And if ever there was a time, the beginning seed, maybe before 9/11 and then 9/11 and now, we are being asked, who are you? Who are you to be? Who are you here to serve? And what is your mission here? How do you connect? One of the things that you gave me that I really love, and I resonated with this, the God, Godness of 9/11, the goodness with one less O. That's very creative and very original. The kindness of strangers. This pandemic, this COVID, everything is showing us that as well. How do you find it as you go around the country discussing and sharing with people your journey and your story? What are you finding with the people that you meet and connect with?
Oh, I think people are starving to be together. I think that COVID while it slowed everything down, which I believe really needed to happen. And I think from that will come new educational structure, which we desperately need. We're not teaching things kids need. We need to revamp all of that. And, so I think that what we're seeing is a new level of curiosity for the people that are no longer afraid. We still have a lot of people very, very scared. And that's where fear, we have to digest what fear is, right? False, whatever the FEAR is. But fear is something we conjure in the mind. It's not real. It's either thoughts of the future or thoughts of the past. So
but I want you
now, there's no fear.
I want you to back up a wee bit, because you are really giving us good stuff here. And that is, you said that people are starving.
Yep.
And the question is, you mentioned another word earlier. I think they are aligned, because this technology, you and I are in this box. We're doing our dance together in this box. This is the wave of the future, no matter what business you're in and what you're doing. It's a new means of connecting. Yet, you mentioned earlier emotional intelligence, and you mentioned people are starving. And my take, Lisa, you share yours with me and the audience. We are starving for more in-depth, authentic, this buzzword that's going around, connection, intimacy, real emotional connection.
Right.
Where do we go astray there? What is your answer to that? Because that's what people are starving for. The connection, meeting, and networking, but it's really to be seen, to be heard, and to be valued.
That's right.
What they bring to the table. Yes?
That's right. So I have two angles to go at that on. First of all, we touched on this before, and that is, where are we going? Who are we? What are we doing here? Well, if in this, let's have your spiritual conversation. Let's talk about energy, right? So we're moving out of the masculine paradigm, which is quite frankly why everything's breaking, why the governments are breaking, why the everything's being exposed, right? Everything's about transparency. So everybody's now suspicious of everything. We also have 330 million different opinions in America, and everybody has an Instagram or a Facebook, so we have a different brand. So we are so individualized and therefore, but without a lot of education, because it's also my belief that we threw our hands up in the air. The world started spinning out of control after 9/11. It was in the advent of the internet. Remember, the internet only started in 2001, and 24-hour cable news started in 91 with the Gulf War, and it was 10 years later, and it exploded both of them.
Yes.
Feeding frenzy. So everybody kind of stopped thinking. So social media came on. So let's do that. Let's take pictures of our food. Let's take, let's show everybody how great our vacation was, when in fact we're really fighting. So the truth is, we all a lot of people, or the whole social media world, and we're all part of it, kind of stayed on the surface, very superficial. So okay, you go, then I'll go in.
Well, stop right there, because you realize obviously what you're saying, because what you're saying is that people stop thinking with the advent of this technology, which is great. And you're saying it's also superficial. It's so powerful what you're sharing. Lisa, I have to take a quick break. Okay. Don't go anywhere. Stay with that thought, because I'm going to come back to you and we're going to talk a wee bit more about that. This 30 minutes goes much too fast. You just said something that's very, very powerful. We have to speak to that a wee bit more. Remind me when I come back, because sometimes I forget. Let me say to you, welcome, and thank you for being here. I love good company. We all do. And you, whether you're here now or for the replay, we enjoy you here with us, because all the stories that we share is to benefit and to impact your life in a good way. And one of the things I want to ask you to do is to make sure you put in the word in the comments, biz, B-I-Z, and your complimentary booklet will be delivered to you. In conjunction with that, I'm going to do a double on you and ask you to make sure that you join my Facebook group, Leading Ladies, Leaving Legacies, because if you remember there, every third Thursday of the month, we meet and we discuss any and every and all. It's an embryo, it's new, it's budding, it's blossoming, but you will be a part of it, because you can come and share anything of interest to you that has to do with style and leadership and how you show up. And I'm inviting you to join us this Thursday, the 15th at 4:30. And I can't wait to see you there. Pop in the word biz, and then we'll continue onward, because that little brochure that you get is going to give you lots of good tools and nuggets that you can use to benefit you. And now I want to go back, and I want to come back to you, Lisa, because what we ended with in my humble opinion, was very powerful. That word starving and that word stop thinking, all of this kind of ties together. So give us a little bit more juice about that.
Well, so back to the feminine, right? So we
Yes,
started with the masculine. So we're going to go in a circle, guys. We're on a spiral here because
that's okay.
we're going to all tie together. So, and this is biz to biz. So this is about business, which we can
Exactly. Bottom line.
People watching this, if you are in a heart-centered, purpose-driven, soul-filled business,
Yes.
you are functioning in the feminine. So what we're doing in a global sense, so this isn't, anyone who's in the spiritual community knows that we are all evolving at a very rapid rate. And what COVID actually is basically the beginning of the next cycle, 2100 year cycle. And so that all the masculine structures are failing and they're breaking and all the feminine is coming in. And that's why there's so much struggle. But I'm not talking about men and women. I'm talking about left brain masculine, right brain feminine, right brain sensory, intuition, creativity. That's the right brain feminine. And what feminine, and so it's best to me, and then I'll stop talking, is how to describe the power. So masculine power is power over, one winner, one dominant, everybody else loses. Feminine power is when you're on your track and I'm on my track and we can mutually coexist. We don't have to win one over and have an agreement. We can just be respectfully considerate and move forward on our particular path, being the piece of the puzzle that we are actually here to be.
I love that. I love the way you express that too, because I have another way of saying it, the same thing. And the way that you explain the masculine and the feminine and the power struggle, and that power is a word that gets into especially the masculine level of communicating. When you're with the feminine and you're in the true essence and self-awareness and self-development and rising to soar to the best in you, you don't have to be right. You listen, the heart, the compassion, the soul of you, it's there and people can sense and feel that. So I think that's what you're saying. We're saying the same thing in different ways.
We are. Well, you and I are aligned. We figured that out the first day we met. And
yes, we did.
The feminine is the vulnerability. It's the power in showing vulnerability, right? It's the superpower. And we talk about emotional intelligence. That's become a total buzzword. But I ask people, like, what does that even mean? And my definition of emotional intelligence is having self-awareness, having introspection, taking responsibility for your actions, apologizing, owning your behavior, not blaming, like literally owning your piece, standing in your own power and being like, I did it for these reasons. This is where I was. This is why I did that. I'm sorry it didn't work out. It wasn't with malice or malintent. It was a mistake or whatever the argument is, but there's power in forgiveness.
Yes. Yes. This is where you mentioned it before and it comes back again. This is where this COVID, this pandemic, and what we're involved with, the seed might have began, I'm not sure, with 9/11 or before, but that self-awareness, self-development, being able to raise your self-confidence and self-esteem where it's healthy, and you don't have to be right. This is what the universe is asking for men and for women. And women are able to project and showcase it more so than men. So that alignment has to be connected. Because see, this is one of the reasons, Lisa, that I never was a great fan of the women's movement, because too many women were hopping on to be exactly like men in a powerful sense.
That's right.
And that wasn't what it was meant to do. At least that's not the feeling I had. And I think you felt the same way. What is it that we need to be more about right here and now, Lisa? You have been through a very traumatic experience in more ways than one. And you shared something personal with me, which we're not going to bring into this broadcast, but you have been dealing with a lot of things that are not easy for anyone. What are the messages that you want to leave us with that will impact and benefit us as we evolve and grow into our best self?
Well, my most recent realization is you have your whole life to get it done.
Yes. Woohoo.
You can keep learning and keep working on those relationships and keep connection and keep looking within. So self-awareness is about, what did I do? What was my part of that situation?
Yes.
How did I go in? Did I think about what I just said and how it was going to land on that person? How would I like to receive that? What if I put myself in their place? How would I like to be them? So
Yes.
it's not a complicated thing. It's just something we've never really taught a lot, or we've touched on it in Sunday schools and we touched on it in
Yes.
kindergarten. There was a
And
book
in their
written years
shoes.
ago. Yeah.
Mhm.
Everything you need to know, you learned in kindergarten. It's be nice to each other. It's be considerate. It's be polite. It's say please. It's all of those things that make human, that is a really nice part of being human, and when we're guided by fear is so anger is rooted by two things: pain and fear. So when you see an angry world, that is pain and fear bubbling at the surface where we are right now.
Well, I don't know who would disagree with that. And one of the things that I'm more aware of than ever before, maybe it's just my time in life, is there's so much confusion.
Oh yeah.
Now. It seems that men, women, children, and it's up to you, me, those are in another generation who've had a little bit more life experience to be role models, that word that's almost disconnected and discontinued, and to be a sterling example of what it means to be an adult. Because kids, the suicide rate is phenomenal. It's higher than it's ever been because kids are confused, right? They don't know which way to turn. They don't have the best examples. And there's too many of them to say that it's not a small percentage. It's too large, the percentage that it is. So what you're saying to us is spot on. We need to be more aware. You always get back, or at least I get back for you and with you, to this word kindness.
Right.
Kindness.
Well, can I just say a couple of things, because I know we're going to in a sec. I want to just revitalize some hope here.
Absolutely. Please.
We have a really phenomenal generation of kids coming.
Oh.
We do.
Yes.
I have young millennials. I have a 27-year-old, and then I have Gen Zs. Now everybody's pointing fingers at each other and they're saying the boomers ruined the world. Where we didn't.
No.
We're just here holding the bag. But up until now, right, enough finger pointing. Let's shift the gears. And yes, are they more entitled? Yes, were they more served? Yes, they were. But you know what? They were allowed to grow into who they are, not who we wanted them to be. So we have given them an opportunity to take it and run. And you and I, people of our generation, and this plays into the women's movement you were mentioning.
Yes.
There's an amassment of women in the world with no message. And what do women bring to the table that really is more of a female feminine thing? Yes. We bring wisdom. We know what our people are doing. We can tell you what's wrong. We are the ones. We are the nurturers and the healers. And I love being a woman, but I'm a woman with a lot of masculine. So I love both sides. I love men and I love women. But the point of it is, we are here to be wise counsel to the young and up and coming.
Thank you for this. Absolutely. There has to be a better word than beautiful ending, because what you said about bringing hope back into the universe, that's what we're all seeking. And how you end it with those of us who are seekers of wisdom, who are rising and soaring. I like eagles, eaglets, those who are rising to be all that they can be, to get into their zone of genius, knowing that they're not better, they're just different. And their mission is to turn around and support others to get where they need to be. It's beautiful how you ended that. And you know what, Lisa, the other thing too is that at a point you stop blame. There's no blame.
Yeah.
The way you described how kids grew up with this entitlement, brilliant.
We've got to stop pointing fingers. We all have to stop pointing
fingers.
The kids have to accept the fact that they've been given a lot. I look at mine and I say, wow, we super overcorrected with you guys, but we did it for all the right reasons, in the sense that we were not seen and heard in the way we needed to be. So we made sure we saw and heard, but we overserved, but we'll correct back. So, I think the next generation of kids, my children's kids, will now be more in the middle, because we're not so inclined. And I think this is a huge piece, Joy. We're not so inclined, or I hope we get to a place where we're not following everybody, that when it doesn't feel right, that we actually stop and do what's right for us.
Oh my goodness. That's so powerful. And the other thing is too, you say it in different verbiage, but it's the same thing. Stop pointing fingers and stop blaming, because everybody does the best that they can.
Yep.
And once you recognize, embrace, and accept that, you say, God bless, and you smile with heart full of love, and you move onward, or you give or support in the best ways that you can. Let's see the book that you wrote so that we can end here. So
here it is, The Light in 9/11, Shocked by Kindness, Healed by Love. It is my memoir. I'm not a professional writer, but I will say anybody who wants to write a book, do it, because it's an amazing experience. But it has been my joy, and I've been very flattered by the compliments I've gotten, from people who've read it. I'm very.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. And let me say that I'm getting ready to write a book. So I'll be coming to you to be one. I'm going to put 12 people in this book, and you're going to be one. And I don't accept no's as an answer.
No, I'm in. I'm in.
Because those of us who are light warriors and spiritual people who want to rise to all that's the best within us and always on this journey supporting others, that's why I salute you. I commend you. I praise you, Lisa, because I know more than the people who are tuning in here and listening somewhat what you've gone through. And I say thank you for honoring us with your pleasure. Any final thoughts or last words you'd like to leave us with?
I just want to say that reiterate what I said before, that we have our whole life to do this.
Yes.
That the idea of retirement, what even is that? Okay, you can stop working, but you can always keep learning. And that's why we're here. We're here to struggle. We're not, with the struggle, meaning lean into that difficulty because it's there to teach us. It's not happening to us. It's actually happening for us. And the question, instead of why is this happening to me, it should be more of, what am I supposed to be learning from this? Why am I being shown this?
Oh, I have no words, and that's rare for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to put you in the green room. Stay there for a second if you can. And I'd like to chat with you later. Thank you, Lisa. That was absolutely wonderful. All the wisdom you share with us. Hold tight. Listen, there's nothing more profound and striking in the best ways than when you meet a soul, a person who's sharing their beauty, their light, and their wisdom with you. So whatever nuggets you got from this, embrace and then take them forward and channel them out to others. That's what this is all about. Biz to Biz is about bottom line, how you grow your business in style. And your style is the essence and the core from the soul of you or who you are. So bless you for being here. And thank you always for showing up. We want to see you in Leading Ladies, Leaving Legacies, my Facebook group. Join me there because then you'll be notified of all the different things that we're doing. And we have a lot of good things in the hopper, so to speak, for you. In the meantime, take the counseling of our guest tonight, Lisa Luckett, and make sure that you can, if you will, or if you're able to purchase the book and then see what a marvelous individual you're going to be connected to. So until we connect again, and we will soon, like tomorrow night at 7 p.m., you be and stay well. I'm sending your way all the time. All the best. Hugs. So long for now. Cheers.